Welcome to Newsbeacon, your trusted source for breaking headlines, global insights, and sharp analysis from around the world. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. In a dramatic and unexpected turn of events, a New York appeals court delivered a significant legal victory to Donald Trump, one that sent shockwaves through both legal and political circles across the country. The court threw out a staggering penalty of nearly $500 million in his high-profile civil fraud case, a sum that had threatened to upend Trump's finances and business empire. The original lawsuit, spearheaded by New York Attorney General Letitia James, accused Trump of systematically inflating the value of his assets for years. The goal, prosecutors argued, was to secure more favorable terms on loans and insurance, painting a picture of a business mogul willing to bend the rules for personal gain. While the crushing financial penalty has been lifted for now, it's important to note that the court did not absolve Trump of all responsibility. The judges made it clear, the finding that Trump exaggerated his net worth and misrepresented his finances still stands as a matter of record. The appeals judges based their decision on the Eighth Amendment, which protects against excessive fines and punishments. They ruled that the nearly $500 million penalty was simply too harsh for a civil offense, even one as serious as fraud. But this dramatic ruling doesn't mark the end of the legal saga. Both Trump's legal team and the state of New York have the option to appeal to New York's highest court, setting the stage for another round in this high-stakes legal battle. The focus of the case now shifts. Instead of debating whether fraud occurred, the central question becomes, what is a fair and just punishment for civil fraud? The legal community is abuzz, debating the implications for future cases, and the precedent this decision might set. For Trump, this ruling means he avoids an immediate financial catastrophe. However, the core accusation of fraud remains unresolved, casting a long shadow over his business reputation and political ambitions. The legal and political worlds are watching every move closely. This case is about much more than just money. It's about the principle of accountability for those in positions of power, and the standards to which they are held. The appeals court's decision reframes the entire debate, forcing everyone to reconsider what truly constitutes a just penalty for civil fraud, especially when the defendant is a former president and a major public figure. The next chapter of this legal drama will unfold in higher courts, ensuring that the spotlight remains firmly fixed on Trump and the ongoing questions of justice, fairness, and the rule of law. For Donald Trump, this is a temporary reprieve, a pause in the storm, but not a full exoneration. The legal battles are far from over, and the nation will be watching as the story continues to develop. The appeals court ruled the $450 million fine was excessive, arguing it far outweighed any proven harm. The banks were repaid, and the Attorney General couldn't show losses matching the penalty. Judges agreed unanimously to toss the fine but were split on the fraud findings, highlighting the case's complexity. The Attorney General plans to appeal, seeking to reinstate the penalty. The court's message: penalties must fit the offense, even in high-profile cases. The Eighth Amendment's protection against excessive fines was central to the ruling. Trump's actions were found wrong, but the punishment was deemed disproportionate. This decision forces a rethink of how financial penalties are set in civil fraud cases. The legal conversation now centers on what's fair, not just on guilt. In the immediate aftermath of the ruling, Donald Trump wasted no time in declaring what he called a total victory. Standing before cameras, he spoke with characteristic confidence, insisting that the decision was a clear sign he had been unfairly targeted. Trump denounced the ruling as further evidence of a corrupt system, claiming powerful forces were conspiring against him. He argued that the legal process was being weaponized for political gain, and that he was the latest victim. Using the decision as a rallying cry, Trump energized his base, painting himself as a fighter standing up to what he called political persecution. His supporters responded with cheers, waving flags and holding signs, convinced their leader was being wronged. On the other side, New York Attorney General Letitia James addressed the public with determination. She vowed to appeal the ruling, emphasizing that in her view, no individual, no matter how powerful or famous, should be above the law. James argued that the evidence of fraud was overwhelming, pointing to stacks of documents and testimony. She insisted that accountability was essential and that the penalty needed to reflect the seriousness of the alleged misconduct. The escalating clash between Trump and James has become a focal point for the nation, highlighting not just legal arguments, but also the deep political and ideological divides that run through American society. Trump's legal team celebrated the ruling as a vindication of their client, while James and her team viewed it as only a temporary setback in their ongoing pursuit of justice. Outside the courthouse, the public battle raged on. Protesters from both sides gathered, waving American flags and holding up signs, turning the legal fight into a symbol of the country's increasingly polarized politics. Supporters and critics remained deeply divided, often along party lines. For some, the case represented a crucial test of the legal system's fairness. For others, it was proof of political bias and overreach. Now, as the case moves to New York's highest court, the stakes have never been higher. The outcome could set important precedents and influence future legal battles involving powerful figures. The nation watches closely, knowing that the final decision will have a lasting impact on public trust in the justice system and the rule of law. One thing is clear, the legal fight is far from over, and its consequences will echo for years to come. Despite dodging the massive fine, Trump didn't get a clean slate. The court upheld a ban preventing Trump and his eldest sons from leading New York-based corporations for years. This restriction directly impacts their control over the Trump Organization. An independent monitor will continue overseeing the company's finances. These penalties show the court took the fraud seriously, even if the fine was tossed. The restrictions are a real constraint on Trump's business in New York. The ruling is a mixed bag financial relief, but ongoing business limitations. The legal system delivered a nuanced judgment. Neither side got everything they wanted. The Trump Organization faces lasting consequences beyond just money. The New York fraud case is just one of many legal battles Trump faces nationwide. He's entangled in civil and criminal cases from business fraud to election interference. These lawsuits have become central to his post-presidency and political strategy. Trump uses the legal turmoil to energize his base, but each case brings unique risks: financial, reputational, and even criminal. The outcomes of one case can influence others, making every ruling critical. The sheer volume of litigation creates an unpredictable future for Trump. Each legal fight is a piece of a much larger puzzle. The story is still unfolding, with major implications for law and politics. Among Trump's biggest legal setbacks are the E. Jean Carroll cases. Juries found him liable for sexual abuse and defamation, ordering him to pay over $88 million. Trump is appealing, but the verdicts are binding and have damaged his reputation. These civil cases are about personal conduct, not business, raising the stakes for Trump's public image. The Carroll lawsuits highlight that even a former president can be held accountable for personal misconduct. The defamation finding was based on Trump's public denials, which the jury found malicious and harmful. These cases set a precedent for holding powerful figures to account in civil court. The appeals will determine if Trump must pay, but the reputational cost is already high. The Carroll verdicts are a milestone for the Me Too movement and the legal system. They add significant weight to Trump's legal troubles. In a historic first, Trump was convicted on 34 felony counts in New York's hush money case. The charges stemmed from payments to Stormy Daniels to silence damaging stories before the 2016 election. Prosecutors argued the payments were part of a scheme to illegally influence the election. The jury's unanimous verdict made Trump the first former president convicted of a felony. He wasn't jailed immediately. Secret Service protection and appeals complicate sentencing. Trump maintains his innocence, calling the case politically motivated. The conviction adds a criminal dimension to his legal woes. The case's legal foundation: falsifying business records to conceal another crime, election law violations. The outcome is a landmark in U.S. legal and political history. The final consequences will play out over years of appeals. Two major federal investigations into Trump, over election interference and classified documents, were dropped after his 2024 re-election. Courts cited presidential immunity, shielding Trump from prosecution for official acts as president. The dismissals sparked fierce debate over the limits of presidential power. For Trump, it was a huge legal win. For critics, a frustrating setback. Meanwhile, in Georgia, Trump faces state criminal charges for alleged election interference. The case, built on anti-racketeering laws, is stalled by legal challenges and controversy around the prosecutor. Unlike federal cases, state charges aren't blocked by presidential immunity. The Georgia case remains frozen with no trial date in sight. The outcome could have major implications, but for now, it's on hold. Trump's legal fate remains uncertain on multiple fronts. Trump's legal future is a maze of appeals and unresolved cases, with each new development adding another twist to an already complicated journey. The path forward is anything but straightforward, and the stakes could not be higher for both Trump and the broader legal system. The New York fraud case is now heading to the state's highest court, where both sides are fiercely fighting for their version of justice. The outcome could set important precedents, not just for Trump, but for how similar cases are handled in the future. Meanwhile, appeals in the E. Jean Carroll and hush money cases are expected to drag on for years, with millions of dollars and Trump's personal reputation hanging in the balance. These cases have already captured national attention, and their resolutions could have ripple effects across the political landscape. The Georgia election case remains stalled, its future shrouded in uncertainty. Legal experts are watching closely, as any movement could have significant consequences for Trump and those involved. Each case moves at its own pace, creating a complex web that shapes Trump's personal, financial, and political fate. The timelines are unpredictable, and delays only add to the tension. The legal battles are deeply interconnected. Victories or losses in one courtroom can influence strategies and outcomes in the others. Every decision has the potential to shift the entire legal landscape. For now, Trump remains under strict business restrictions in New York and stands as a convicted felon, pending appeal. These limitations affect not only his business empire, but also his public image and future opportunities. The legal landscape is constantly shifting, with new motions, rulings, and appeals emerging almost every week. There is no clear end in sight, and uncertainty looms over every proceeding. The outcomes of these cases will impact not just Trump, but the nation's view of justice, accountability, and the rule of law. Millions are watching, waiting to see how the courts will respond. The story is far from over. Every court decision could change everything, and the final chapter has yet to be written. The nation holds its breath as the legal drama continues to unfold.